Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Good day, dear friends. We have the full audience today, and I hope we will discuss a fascinating and relevant subject. The first panel was devoted to AI, not accidentally. This is a technology that is becoming a backbone for our society, but we have other subjects. And we have been working on them over the course of recent years. And we want to see what the next steps will be. It is called Digital Platforms and Services. What is next? I will explain why the title is like that. If you remember the last Phenopolis, we gave ourselves a lot of homework. Together with the market participants, we had 7 assignments. Ministry of Digital Development gave 7 home assignments, and all participants supported it, and we decided that we need to progress on them, but we have new issues, new subjects to discuss today. Not just as a brand new subject, but what specifically is going to be done by us. And API or open finance, number of other subjects. But before we move into the discussion itself, let me introduce my dearest guest. To the right, Mr. Saif. I'm extremely happy to see him to join our forum, and I attended the forum in Dubai very recently, and the colleagues also organized the forums, which is similar to Phenopolis. It was extremely fascinating, and we meet each other on a business because Mr. Saif, he is serving for the central bank and is responsible for all digital transformational programs that the Central Bank of Emirates is implementing. Mr. Saif, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates. Let's greet our guest.
Kirill Tsarev,
Deputy Head of the Sberbank Board. Extremely interesting to discuss, and with Kirill, on the human-centricity subject. We already discussed it in the first plenary session, but we just touched upon. But what I would like to do is to take a deeper dive into it. What is the meaning? Dmitry Dubynin, Director of Department in the Ministry of Digital Development. We just joked on the margins of the forum that we gave a home assignment to Maksud Shadayev last time, and he took part in the discussion last year. But Dmitry will be answering. It's okay. The bosses, they take the tasks and the assignments, but the ones who do these tasks are the directors of corresponding departments, and Dmitry does a lot. And under his supervision, the large-scale structural projects are being implemented, and we will discuss the outcomes of these projects as well. To the left of me, George Gorshkov, VTB Bank. It will be difficult for him because he was appointed very recently, and the way he envisages retail banking is a challenge, and we will challenge him on this subject. Maybe he will challenge us not to answer this question, but we will try. VTB, as one of the biggest players, is extremely important from a perspective of the range in establishing the business models in the years to come based on the business structure and innovations that we are facing every day. Yakov Sergienko, he is a partner, Yakov and Partners firm. And I believe many of you read the reports issued by this firm despite this is a young company, still, we know the way it was founded. Some time ago it was an international company, but many successful people joined this Yakov and Partners company, and their reports turned to be mega professional and very informative, and I recommend each one of you to go through these reports, and we will consider it today. And Olga Sorokina, Deputy Head of VSK Insurance House. Olga very recently was appointed to be head of the big business unit responsible for financial technologies. And this is not just an accidental appointment. Usually the banks, they take the lead. But in the general voting and for the Business Development Committee, Olga was elected. Everybody feels a leader in her, and she's not just interested in the insurance business development, but in the business development overall in our country. Let me begin it with a question, which has been asked to us very often as a central bank. Now it is not asked, since everybody realized that the central bank is performing a transformation in the digital area and acts as a leader in many projects and prove this is the right path forward. And we use the big number of services provided to us by the central bank and providing equal access to NSPK and unified biometric system. And you know, the regulator has a difficult choice. Always, traditionally, regulators, they come up with regulations, they take part in the lawmaking, they do supervision, but such a thing as central bank saying, I want to be a high-tech regulator, not just said, but did. This is not often case in the world. Yakov will give his comments on this subject. And those regulators who took this burden and did it consciously and are succeeding, reaching significant results, they act jointly with the market participants, and they change not just financial world, but the entire economy. And Mr. Saif is one of those leaders in the Central Bank of United Arab Emirates. He came from the business community. It's important that the person who is doing it in the central bank has a feel of the business, to be able to talk with the business community in their language. And Mr. Saif took a lead in the digital transformation sphere, in the financial area. And so my question goes to Mr. Saif. And the transformation program of financial infrastructure, what are the components? And you as a regulator, what you are doing as a regulator? Are you leading the projects? Are you just consulting them? And what are the tasks that you managed to tackle over the course of 2 or 3 recent years?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dubynin, I hope I said it correct. I'll start by thanking my colleagues for inviting me in this great conference, and I hope I can add value to all of you. What we started within the central bank, we announced it last year in the 4th quarter, it's called FIT, Financial Infrastructure Transformation. The program itself is set around 14 different platforms, and it has about 4 pillars that we look after. One is around the digital platforms itself. The second one is around the regulations. The third is around the talent development. The fourth is around international collaboration. And last is around our operating model. If we start within the first one, the digital transformation, or the digital platform. Within that area, we have some digital platforms that we are running at the central bank around the payment area, mainly CBDC, fast payments, and our card domestic scheme. Then there are some other platforms around the data sharing, which is our Open Finance and eKYC. Then there are some are specific to the central bank, which is what we call our supervisory technology, which is mainly around AI and AI-driven supervision. So if we speak about the first one, which is our payment side, on a CBDC, we've been the first one to be part of what we call the M-Bridge. M-Bridge is between the UAE, China, Hong Kong, and Thailand, under the supervision of the Bank of International Settlement, BIS. And it's mainly for cross-border CBDC transactions. We have been successful in doing real CBDC transaction with real money. The transaction around the world between us and China using the M-Bridge, it took about 2 seconds to clear and settle. The T+1, T+2 for international transaction is no longer the case. The central banks are taking the lead to make these almost instantly and lower the cost of international transactions. We also, within the central bank, we are doing our retail CBDC. And within our retail CBDC, we're focusing mainly around 4 use cases currently. One, what we call smart tourist. The other one is around transaction or fractional ownership. The fourth is smart parent. And the fifth is around the government subsidies or social support to citizens. This is what we're doing in the space of CBDC, and we are quite advanced on that. Hopefully, the M-Bridge will go live sometime on December or January. We have already moved from the MVP, which is minimum viable project, and we are moving to a full production side. On our instant payment, we've launched our instant payment or enhanced instant payment on 5th of November. Our instant payment is similar to what we have here in Russia. So you can transact money using phone number, email, QR code, and we are adding to it your ID, so no need to know the IBAN. We're also adding more services to this, what we call the EDD, or electronic direct debit, in which you can set an agreement between you and the gas company or your phone company to detect the amount from your account instantly as the invoice comes in. We are also doing the first digital check. We are replacing any paper check from that perspective, and we will have it all as part of our instant payment. And the last one is we're doing on the payment is our card domestic scheme. Again, similar to you, we already launched our first stage, and we are about, by hopefully next quarter or the first quarter of next year, we'll be launching our debit card on that front. Some of these platforms are run by the central bank directly, and some of these platforms are run by the sector. For example, within the central bank, we already have designed the eKYC. And the eKYC that we've done it is for retail, SME, and corporates, with one promise, that the institute or the LFI will ask the document from their customer once. The owner of these documents are the customers. So we're trying to make the eKYC and account opening, instead of taking days for corporate, to take a few minutes to do so. We already have succeeded on the retail side. Now you can open an account within the UAE in a few seconds, as a tourist or as a resident from that perspective. Open finance is another area where we're sharing the document. And for the UAE itself, we did not start with open banking. We jumped all the way to open finance. We just have passed our regulation, and we're trying to introduce something quite unique from that perspective. Most of the open finance are driven by something they call consent. So that's one part of the things that we are implementing as a platform. On the other side, we are doing a centralized hub. So let me give you just a little bit, or one of the use cases we're doing with the open finance. So you log into an app, you want to travel. So you book the country that you want to travel to. You would receive a message immediately through the open finance platform from an exchange company saying, can we translate for your money or to the exchange? Let's say you're coming to Russia, so dirham to ruble, immediately. So you will receive another one through the open finance. Do you want to buy a travel insurance from that perspective? That seamless experience is what we're trying to create through the open finance. Now moving to another area, which is the talent development. This is a very important part of the FIT program. On that area, what we're trying to do is we brought in the best university or the top 3 universities in the digital transformation. And we took our graduates to go through that program. It's a 1-year program in which they learn development, cybersecurity, and data scientist from that perspective. On the regulation, which is another very, very important part for our private sector to play and help us digitize our sector from that perspective. We have passed a number of regulations. Some of the regulations around virtual assets. We passed the regulation, our open finance. We passed the regulation, and we revamped all of our payment regulation from that perspective. The last part within our FIT program is around international collaboration. Central banks, they don't act alone. We are a community, and we share a lot of our experiences between one another, because the financial stability of anyone on this is as important to everyone within that blockchain within the central banks. So we're doing a lot of international cooperation within our colleagues in Russia. We're doing a lot with India. We're doing a lot with China. We're doing with Europe and South Africa. Each one of these platforms that we're trying to launch, we usually do it with 1 or 2 international collaboration from that perspective. I hope I'm briefed, and I can continue talking more and more, but it's a 5-minute kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was listening to the translation very carefully because, well, Mr. Saif had to say a lot, and I got the impression that we're working in the same bank, even though, like, we're working in different countries in different banks. But, you know, Tolstoy said that, like, all families are alike, and I can say all banks are alike. So we haven't agreed on what Mr. Saif will be talking about, but actually it is matching with what we do a lot. So the smart regulatory thought is moving in such a way that the card system, the faster payment system, the CBDC or digital currencies are led by regulators. Right, the marketplace use it, of course, take benefit, and the marketplace make those services user-friendly. But when we talk about the creation of such services at the national level, this is the role and the responsibility of a regulator. And it's very important to provide the equal access to everybody, as well as to allow the banks to decrease their costs. Mr. Saif also mentioned the platform KYC. We also have it. And we actually arranged it because there was a demand from business coming. Sometimes it happens. Business comes to us, dear colleagues from the Bank of Russia, we can't do it ourselves. Can you please do it? And so we react. And the readiness of central banks, such as the Bank of Russia and the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, this capability of actually doing, it is worth a lot. Because, for example, the KYC platform showed us that it is very much in demand. And Mr. Saif also mentioned CBDC and the pilot with the national digital currency. So colleagues are also piloting it, and they are taking part in the Enrich project. Well, when we were drafting our project of digital ruble, we also assumed that we could have the trans-border system with the help of this tool. And Mr. Saif touched upon this topic, and this wasn't a coincidence. Actually, we exchanged a couple of phrases before, and we agreed that in 3 to 5 years, the system of international payments and settlements will be different. So now I also have a question to Mr. Saif, short question. How does the central bank, your central bank,
инвестиции или такие денежные средства в реализацию проектов,
spends this investment on projects And how do you build the model for business? I mean, how do you build the model for legal and individual entities? I will elaborate. So we, as a Central Bank of Russia, we believe that what we can do for a citizen for free should be done for free. And yes, we have some tariffs where it is possible to do. But these are minimum tariffs. And in your bank, when it comes to tariffs and rates, what is the model that you're pursuing in your bank?
Thank you for the question. As for the tariff and the tariff for what we call transaction fees from that perspective, our intention is to reduce the cost and increase adoption and financial inclusion. So the tariff, central banks around the world are not for profit. So we do not try to put a lot of costs on our customers. We look at the whole value chain, and every single platform we try to introduce to the market, we ensure that the whole value chain actually reduce the cost and the burden, both on the end consumer, on our LFI, and the way that we operate. So reduction of cost and elimination of cost is extremely important in everything that we design. And we're trying to do this in various ways. One, through introducing a new competition, so can reduce the cost. The second is introducing these platforms, and each one of these platforms has a different cost structure. But whatever we do, we ensure that today the cost is only to maintain the company. And as the businesses grows, and as the adoption grows, and as the transaction grows, we reduce the transaction fees on a yearly basis from that perspective, hopefully to reach to a point where it's become very fractional, that the end consumer, they do not feel any additional cost by introducing this platform. The quality of life is what we are after, and the financial inclusion is what we are after. So the cost element is very important to us to make it very affordable to all different classes within the society, be it you are a blue collar or a white collar. You should afford all of the digital infrastructure provided by the central bank. Thank you.
Спасибо. Но здесь мы тоже совпадаем.
Thank you very much. I also think that we are on the same page here with you. And I guess it is the sign that most of the central banks are coming after the social well-being and are guided by the principles of availability and accessibility. So,
то, что вы делали последние годы, вообще ваша карьера личная, она была посвящена тому, что вы очень четко оценивали, понимали, каким образом
in this field, and you were analyzing the business development in different countries, the trends, what worked, what didn't work, and what are the prospects for the future.
Несмотря на то сложное время, в котором мы живем, я имею в виду, как страна, да, до этого были 2 года пандемии, сейчас спецоперация, вы, тем не менее, продолжаете делать хорошие аналитические международные отчеты и действительно оцениваете в том числе позицию России, если мы говорим о цифровом развитии цифровой трансформации. Если можно, поделитесь последними данными, должна сказать, не надо нас жалеть, даже если они не очень прекрасные, наверное, наоборот, для нас это будет больше повод задуматься, что мы делаем не так или наоборот, куда быстрее бежать. Поэтому будьте с нами откровенны и честны, как всегда консультанты это делают. И второй мой вопрос, что вы считаете с точки зрения инфраструктурных больших тем, в ближайшее время нам как регулятору нужно сделать?
Thank you very much. Here, I think we have we face a rare situation when I can actually praise and not be and feel okay about it. So when it comes to digitalization and banking services, Russia is one of the leaders. Objectively, we see it not only because we analyze the client, customer experience and NPS scorings. We also see digital teams from Russia Russia. Under sanctions, they're still in demand around the world, and they help other banks to address problems that haven't been addressed for quite a long time. So obviously there are some metrics, and we are leaders when it comes to the wireless or contactless payments. Now the rate is 82%. You know, we actually meet every year, and the figure grows as well. So we have some objective indicators that show that the initiatives that were put together a couple of years ago, such as the national payment system as well as the faster payment system, now they are really in demand, especially we saw it over the last 2 years. Now let's talk about the regulator. As comparison to the commercial bank, regulator is like on different position, right? We already mentioned the word platform today. So platform is a model of interaction between the marketplace. In the past, people were meeting at the stock exchange, and then we got some platforms. For example, in banking, we have some very nice examples. We have financial institutions, and thanks to their scale, they can provide for the investment, a good investment for the customer experience, and they are indeed the leaders, not only at the national, but also at the international level. And so now colleagues ask questions like, do we need maybe one large bank or 5 large banks? Well, actually, every bank is now very good when it comes to their quality. But when we talk about a regulator, then ecosystem, which means the number of marketplaces and how they interact, this is the task that we should address to develop and evolutionize the industry itself. I won't be talking about cross-border payments, even though that's quite a challenge in the context of all the current challenges. Also, we have BRICS Plus. Tomorrow we'll also have this discussion. And so the open finance and how central bank addresses this, it moves into this direction. Russian banking sector is quite a large one in comparison to insurance industry, for example. And so what is happening now here is very important. I just wanted to mention that it is very good for competition in the industry. It might sound strange. We have a wonderful panel today here, but still, thanks to the open finance, the central bank and the society in general gets this opportunity to create the ecosystem of services. So Human-centricity becomes a reality. So middle-sized banks. And we estimated that in 5 to 6 to 10 years, up to 60% of small banks in Russia can disappear. We see the emergence of AI. We see that this is the industry that should be invested in. It requires a lot of equipment, capacities, etc. And it becomes difficult even for such companies as Sber. So we have to create such conditions that the small and middle-sized organizations could be integrated into larger ones. That's how we will increase the quality of services that we will provide to our clients. And if we talk about the internal market, well, I think that here we can say that we need to move from good to great. So this is the competitive environment, this is inclusion of our small and middle-sized banks into the larger banks, and also that's how we'll develop our services. So that's how I would reply to your question. Right, thanks a lot. And indeed, Mr. Saif mentioned this. So when you have the basic infrastructure, which is the payment infrastructure, the infrastructure of state services, we face the following question. We see the development of technologies, and we do see that not all the companies can actually allow for this development. How can we preserve the competition? How can we not be in a situation when we have only 1 or 2 players? Because we do understand that if we are in this situation, then the development of the country as it is will be slowed down. Because where we have competition, where we have at least 4 to 5 players, we see that they're fighting for their customers and they come up with something new every time. So e-commerce is a very good example. We have about 4 to 5 very big players, and they're fighting for our attention and for our money. They're ready to do possible and impossible. So when it comes to banking, well, I, as a customer, not only as a regulator, I would like to see this competition as well. And indeed, API is the opportunity actually to provide with this instrument and to create an infrastructure on the market in which not only the very large, but also large and small and medium-sized companies will survive. And so companies of different sizes will be able to profit from that. So we've published the concept of API that Yakov mentioned quite some time ago. So over this year, we were discussing this concept, and it took us quite a while. Why? Because the task is far from being easy. And I will explain the situation. So we already got to like a new level, right? So this is when actually we used to work with the check notes, and then we are on another level. So open finance is about implementation of recommended APIs for all the players. And well, that would mean that the big players will eat and consume the small and medium-sized ones. Large players told us about it. So there is an ecosystem, and the banking industry is not represented there that well, but we have still large database of clients. And if we don't identify the criteria for API integration, that means that, some other companies can take clients from banks through some other services. And it doesn't help competition at all. So, colleagues, now we will follow the approach as follows. So, we spent 1 year to analyze all this. And yesterday, we had a large discussion with the marketplace on how to move further. So we confirmed that we'll have open finance in a hybrid mode. I will explain what I mean. Hybrid mode means that we'll go to open finance from recommended APIs. We will go to the mandatory API with those operations where it is required according to the list that we'll identify together with the marketplace, and also together with the Ministry of Digital Development. We will work on open data with the key players that are needed in the market. At the same time, in the open finance, we will first do the following. When the major banks, not only banks, but companies, insurance companies, will provide the other major companies with what they need.
And we believe that this approach will allow us, point one, to start sharing data, customers' consent, let me emphasize, and on the other side, we will avoid the disbalance while the baby is growing somebody at someone. This is something that we want to avoid. A roadmap on implementation of open finance will be submitted by the end of this year. And now we are talking what to do in which year with the players. It's not a secret that open finance will require further development from the bank side, and we need to allow them some time to do so. And my question goes to Kirill, to the Georgia biggest players. As far as I remember, Kirill, myself, and you as Sberbank, you support API implementation. You have a vast experience inside the ecosystem, and you believe this is the instrument which will allow you to build and offer services and products for the customer in a different way and try to compete. This is a new window of opportunities. What are the products and services that you envisage that due to open finance implementation can be offered for the customer? In principle, you are self-sufficient already. If we deviate from the monopoly and competition idea, the customers inside your organization receive everything. And you say that open finance is not good and bad. Let's just do it. Let us get it done. And then I will ask a question question to George. Thank you very much. We are not self-sufficient at all. Don't demonize us. I believe the main task, on the one hand, to try to offer the customers our services. On the other hand, if we have competitive products and they're better, let's get back to the beginning of our conversation, customer-centricity and human-centricity. If your product is of worse quality versus some other player's product, then you have two scenarios. You are going to lose this customer. Sooner or later, this customer will realize that you are worse, and then you will be able to provide not your service, but service of some other company. Once we discussed the e-com and joint collaboration opportunities, and we can see such collaborations between different participants, including us. Let me make a comment. In e-com, there is a competition, so many players are there, and 5 players take 70% of the market. Let us do it in the banking sector. 5 banks. And the situation is quite different. We can take first top players in e-com, and we will have a similar situation. Be afraid of your dreams. They can come true. And I think the players are different, and they came to the banking market, and this is a competition. We are for the competition. We continue standing for the competition. We have competitive banks, we have e-com, and the next step, previously, everybody lived on a great asymmetry of information. Now this asymmetry is subsiding as technology is developing. The requirement is that all the products need to be competitive in new conditions. Due to digitalizations, the customers will always have access to the information. And sometimes this service can be faster and better for someone. And it is easier to start opening these APIs for each other, to compete for the customer's journey, for the customer's experience, for the format that the customer receives it, either it's a service or set of services. While we are talking about banking services, this is not the goal. The customer has different needs, not just to get a loan. And why e-com is so successful, the banks need to move, to drift there, to provide their services at the point where there is a service available. And we understand that APIs will be increasingly opening, and for us it's important to have this sequence, transparent rules. This is also important, and to ensure that all the players to have equal rights. From my perspective, in the financial sectors, not just banks compete against banks, but ecosystems, e-coms, digital companies, they also come. They don't have big banks, but in terms of customer coverage and number of points of interaction, they are included in the top 5 if we compare them against the banks. If we need to open it in all these 3 pillars, it needs to be happening at the same time. In banks, e-coms, and digital companies, de facto, we are talking about the same customers and opportunity to offer these services in all dimensions. This is just one side of the medal. And then the other side of the medal, everybody will be competing against other banks, providing their services in their apps. In the end of the day, the customer needs to be given the best service, and then this customer will stay with you. And if you sell something which is expensive to the customer, then customer might leave you. It's not easy to leave you, and I'm trying. And the AI works and does not allow me to move into the different ecosystems, and I wish AI works in different cases. What I have heard from from you is that you support this idea that you want to ensure that conditions are equal for everyone. And it's not just for the banks. The biggest shall not apply just to the banks in the classic understanding and definition, not just the banks. George, since you cannot be as kind as Kirill, and everything is fine with Kirill, customers are not leaving him, he is not afraid of API and competition. And what you need to do is to fight for the market share, to take the market share which is planned by you. I'm not asking you what is your planned market share, and retain customers' loyalty to your bank, to Sberbank. And I believe if we are talking about human-centricity, the customers will be choosing the services of those banks and organizations that love their customers. What is your take? What is your perspective on this fight, considering implementation of the open finance? This is question one. And question two, aren't you afraid that the more advanced company in the area of technology, since they are at a quite different level of development, so they can get your customers' data very fast, and you will not be able to respond as fast as the data is transferred? Thank you very much, Olga. Once you come upon invitation somewhere, usually people express their gratitude. But let me begin with a point that we had a quick conversation with Mr. Saif before this plenary session, and at least on one point we are like-minded. Our central bank is the best. Simply the best. And you are laughing, but I'm serious. I'm not even smiling while saying so. We would never had such a wonderful forum unless central bank comes with this idea. So we would not have this fast payment system, NSPC system. So many technological innovations are initiatives of the Central Bank of Russia that acts more active than commercial players. We want to thank you for it. Speaking about API and AI and human-centricity subject, you know, on the one hand, over the course of 500 recent years, I have not witnessed any significant changes at the banking market. And in the customer's consciousness, the bank is someone who is responsible for my money. The banking business is established on the customer's confidence and loyalty, not so much love. Relationships with the banks begin with confidence, not love. The households, people, they entrust their salaries and income and money transfers to the bank. And as innovations come, we need to preserve this trust and confidence. And the first thing, we begin to design the customer's journey, to think about new products. This is retaining confidence and trust and saving customers' money. This is extremely important. And we are like-minded. We are on the same page. And once we continue thinking about the customers, we consider accessibility, affordability, what and how to pay. And affordability is also important. Financial instruments that customers use, they pay either with a phone or a banking card, they shall not be expensive. And in this way, API and open banking concept both under due development, the transactional costs will go down for the banks, and the customers will benefit from it. And first point is safety owing to economic efficiency and affordability for the users. And point three, I want to emphasize, Olga already mentioned it, and I know the bankers, my colleagues, they are concerned and they're afraid with the open banking implementation. They're afraid of someone who will steal the database. But we've been there already. I remember in the 90s, the banks, they were securing their ATMs. They believed their customers shall use their own ATMs. But now customers, most of the banks, they can withdraw money from any ATM. They can give this money to anyone. And these are the prototypes of the banking services that are offered to everyone. It was there, now it's forgotten. Now we are talking about more sensitive matters related to data. But as ordinary people, as consumers, we leave much more data about ourselves in social media, in the chat boxes, when different bank services responsible for the safety of customers, they're looking what the customer explained about himself, why the fraudsters attacked him. And it turns out, as a consumer, sometimes we are not cautious enough with our data. From the technology perspective, to be honest, the progress cannot be stopped. API increase availability of infrastructure. They improve economic efficiency of the partnerships when banks and non-banks want to share financial flows and make offers to the customers that sometimes go beyond the traditional banking services. And even when the banks are talking to each other, they might think this technology is dangerous. I don't think so, because during today's plenary session, the president of Sberbank mentioned that they approved the new Sber strategy, which is built on a human-centricity approach. And what does it mean? It means that humans need to have a right to choose what they buy, how do they pay for what they purchase. And us as consumers, we shall not be locked inside one single system, although it's so perfect as Sber system. And as a part of our new strategy, where VTB needs to become the fastest growing bank in our country, and part of our customers keeping their accounts in Sber also might benefit from the services offered by VTB, which is as technological as Sber's, but even more attractive in some ways. Olga, this question goes to you. We don't have other insurance companies. You are the only one, and you can speak on behalf on the Committee of Association of Financial Technologies, and it sounds really kind and nice. And we broke so many sticks during the year. What to do? Shall we do open finance, open data? It's a vast amount of work, which is not visible from outside, but that resulted in the outcome, both from regulators and the market participants' perspective. And only such projects can be success stories as an insurance company. What are the benefits of the open finance, and what data in the new business models will be interesting for you, only banking or some other perhaps, and overall? Since insurance business, to be honest, is not so much advanced as the banking sector, let me put it this way, and implementation of the open finance for insurance sector, will it give a new impetus, capacity to the insurance sector to run and implement the digital projects? Yes, you take part in a number of digital projects, but at the level of insurance companies, we would like to see faster, cheaper, and more comfortable services. Thank you very much for your question. And what I would like to point out from the business perspective, that any transformation, any accelerated growth is not possible without support from the state. And now we have a big number of initiatives enabling to increase the level of the digital transformation of remote services. Digital sector is developing at accelerated pace. The entire fintech, yesterday a decision was made that we are moving into implementation of open API on open finance. But all the market participants mentioned that we do it accompanied with the open data transition. And I would like to thank you. And during the first plenary session, presentation, it was mentioned that financial sector is a locomotive of the entire digital transformation development as well as AI. And the fact that the concept is there, and this concept shows the transfer to the open data. And this is the transformation and innovation per se. How the business model is changing. What is important for us? The open finance. From the financial player's perspective, we are so much integrated. We know a lot about ourselves and our customers. Once the next payment comes, the bank knows the interest rate, the periods, the timelines. We share this data. It's been long since it's possible to do everything in a digital domain. But other players are also interesting. Let me cite several examples. VSK Insurance House acts as a leader in the fintech platform. We will the first ones integrated with GLONASS. What is the benefit of the open AI for us and for the citizens? And the key task for the insurance company to do settlements of insured events. And our key task is to do prevention. Not like anyone else, we want to avoid these critical insured cases, the accidents from happening in our customers. Once we are integrated with GLONASS, we receive information about geolocation, date and time, and also the level of impact. What does it mean for the customer? Customer is freed from the fraudsters. We shall not waste time on verification of all these parameters, so the period for the payment to the customer becomes shorter. And another important factor, once we exclude the fraud, we can come up with a fair pricing. And one more example, transportation sector. Finapolis mentioned the smart city and the operator of CCTV cameras. Not all of them belong to the state. Many of them are private. For us, it's important to have open API, standardized APIs, that it will accelerate the development of the entire sector. We are not for one single player. We are for the competition. And the state needs to allow retaining this competition for the customer. So we don't want monopolies. We don't want centralization, no matter what name is used. Once we are integrated with the CCTV surveillance, the coverage is very high. 80% of the traffic is covered by the CCTVs. We don't need certificates. Yes, we need to work on the standards from the technological perspective, and the platform of the All Union Insurance Association. Plus, we need changes in the regulation, in the regulatory framework. And as a part of this phase, once we started developing an open API, we will move into it. The third point, which is extremely important for the market overall and for our citizens as well. This is public health. We mentioned it already today. And I want to thank you, Olga, and the Ministry of Digital Development, Maksut Igorovich, for supporting this sectoral approach, sectoral medicine. Now it is a part of strategic development of the financial sector. Why this is so important? Because this is the cross-players case. Bank of Russia, Ministry of Public Health, medical institutions, insurance companies. The complexity is related to the fact that the digitalization level is high. We have one single customer file, and voluntary medical insurance is not that advanced in terms of digitalization. And customers' health is very important. And in the All Russia Union of Insurance Companies, we are developing the open API of insurance companies and medical institutions. And information on the insured persons is in there, and guarantee letters are there. And you shall not wait in the medical institution for the approval of the procedures and documents. And you can get everything in instantly. And we want to improve customer satisfaction. And we want the customer to choose the best service. And competition works for this goal.
Thank you.
у Жванецкого. А теперь давайте заслушаем начальника транспорта.
And now let's listen to another head of some particular area, transportation. So now I'd like to give the floor to Dmitry. First, I'd like to ask you about API, just to warm up a little bit. It's not a coincidence that we spend so much time speaking about API. It's not just for our pleasure, it's the necessity, and we do understand how to do it.
Он, кстати, важен с точки зрения искусственного интеллекта. Это все-таки безопасность человека и возможность ему управлять своими согласиями.
And also the ability of a person to manage their consents.
Мы говорим о платформе согласия, которая нам нужна, все говорят, что нужна. И слава тебе, Господи, должна сказать, что наконец-то мы с вами договорились, что платформа согласия будет делаться в инфраструктуре госуслуг,
management platform will be done within the infrastructure of the state services in Russia, because the consent management platform only for financial services is not needed. We need such a platform which will cover different services, finance, insurance, telecom, and many others. As far as I know, as a result of our long discussions, you've indeed taken this task, you've put it on your plan,
долго нам ждать, когда же эта платформа согласия все-таки будет. Мы, безусловно, как центральный банк, как участники рынка, будем участвовать в этой работе. Все-таки наше вдохновение очень помогает. Но с точки зрения дорожных сроков, что вы можете сказать, как вы сами видите себе, когда мы действительно сможем хотя бы пилоты начать на этой платформе?
Right, thank you, Olga. I have to confirm that the homework was there. Indeed, we agreed. And here we address general tasks, common tasks. In the past, we only had public consents, right, for public use of data, and now it's about commercial usage of data as well. So as to the timeline, we've discussed the technological solution, and so there could be an interim stage of implementation of this platform. And we also have some targeted results that we would like to see in the end. Now we assess our deadlines proceeding from the current tasks, those that are connected to the transfer of some services to the public infrastructure. So some part of the electronic government will be transferred on those. Definitely the platform will be implemented within this infrastructure. So as to the technological solution, our deadline is the end of this year. We need to understand how we will add it to the current infrastructure. I hope that you mean this year, right? Yes, exactly, this year. So it will be very important to make a decision whether we do it on the infrastructure that will be moving. Is there any sense in that? Because then it means that the participants will have to connect, integrate, exchange information, etc. Or shall we wait for the implementation on the infrastructure that it will be operating on later without any migration? So we will make this decision, and depending on this, we will either be able to transfer to the prod level or prod stage by the end of the 2024, or maybe by the some other timeline. Okay, indeed, we understand that this should be done by the end of 2024, in 2025. So if we unite our efforts and launch this consent management platform in 2025, it will be quite a breakthrough for everybody. Okay, so actually in the beginning I said that we need to work on our homework. We had 7 tasks. We already discussed 2 topics: open finance, open data, and then the consent management platform. We also had 4 tasks to the Ministry of Digital Development: biometric system, end-to-end ID, and okay, so end-to-end ID, not to you. So
действительно, я должна сказать, что с точки
I
зрения
need to
цифрового
say
профиля физлица,
that from
коллеги, у
the
нас
digital
очень хорошие
profile of an
результаты. И
individual,
вообще, как бы
we
несложно
have good results.
казался нам этот проект в начале, он реально работает, порядка 50
to be a difficult
миллионов
project,
граждан,
but about 50 million citizens use the digital profile. I mean, the digital profile of a physical entity. I'd like to remind you that you can get the data from the state platform to use some public services. There is a demand coming from the market, and also a lot of players said that it would be very nice to have a digital profile for a legal entity. So, where are we here? And also, maybe a couple of words on the biometric system and other topics. Okay, so here we have the same goal. So at the first plenary session, the head of my ministry said that now we are moving to the new logic in the work of these profiles. So we won't store data in those profiles, but we will get this from the windows, so to say. So we'll orchestrate this system and the profiles will be built. So as to the digital profile of legal entities, the same story. So first, the first version of the digital profile of a legal entity was already launched, and the first user is the platform for SMEs, and now we have two players connected to the digital profile of a legal entity. And so now it is used in half a semi-test stage mode. We have some technological issues on interaction. We also see the change in the legislation when it comes to the data that is there, because we need to actually write it and fill it in. So, as to this project, we definitely supported this initiative in the past, and we continue to support it. So I guess that with the normative act that will be adopted by the government, will step by step go to the digital profile of a legal entity, so that legal entities could enjoy this as well. Okay, very nice. So Olga is a representative of those two companies that started to pilot the digital profile of a legal entity. So, this is just the beginning, but could you maybe share your experience? How do you feel about it? Right, thank you very much. It's very nice that we can also talk about practice here. So we are among the pioneers because we were really waiting for the digital profile of a legal entity, because actually we can see the very good effect from that. So why did we want to get this digital profile of a legal entity? Because it decreases the cost, it increases the availability of our insurance services for our customers. Why? Because the key task for us here is to identify fraud and to personalize the price. How does the market work? The market works with some average indicators. So if there is a fraud that is spread in the market, that means that the insurance price will go up. And so the digital profile is the guarantee of the data. It is verified. And if there is somebody or legal entity in this case, or individual entrepreneur who is ready to share the information about themselves, that increases trust.
Вот сейчас есть в текущем эксперименте это 7 согласий,
within
20
this experiment, we have
это пилот,
7 consents
and здесь мы не расстраиваемся, что сейчас это небольшое количество сведений. Ключевая задача это отработать весь процесс. Что сейчас видим мы? Получаем первое, мы действительно получаем информацию из ЕГРУ, из ИП, а второе, мы получаем информацию по паркам транспортных средств.
Second, we also get the information on the fleets of vehicles. Then we talk about the customer experience and the customer journey. Georgi also mentioned it. So we would like to grant our client the easy entry. Here, we don't need to collect any other data. We should go away from papers because, still paper is preserved at the legislative level, but the digital profile of a legal entity allows us to move away from hard copies from paper. Our client will get insurance for their vehicles in a fully digitalized manner. And so we hope that this will continue to develop. We also worked with the digital profile of physical entities. Actually, now I don't know exactly how many types of data we get from the client. About 50 probably. Right. So, we use the platform of Finopolis, and I would like to also mention that the FinTech Association indeed unites the financial market, and the Ministry of Digital Development is an active player. But, before the new year, as the wish of the Santa Claus, I would like to ask for the green corridor for pilot projects. Now we have standard SLAs, they are good, and we are developing together with the Ministry of Digital Development, but maybe you could consider the opportunity of ED SLA for these projects, because, the level of digitalization will increase significantly. Okay, thank you very much, and Dmitry, maybe a couple of more words about the unified biometric system and the state key. Right, so last year we had a lot of events, normative acts, different documents, legislative documents, bylaws, etc. So where are we now? Now, a lot of organizations that were processing and collecting biometric data, they've transferred this data to the unified biometric system, or they are in this process. We also are working on the accreditations. Now we've got 3 accredited banks, and some other ones are now undergoing the accreditation process. What does this mean? This means that these banks will be able to render just regular services to banks with the biometric data. Okay, let's explain a little bit, because not everybody knows about some commercial biometric systems. So, when a person submits the biometrical data, they submit it to the unified biometrical system, and then commercial players can accredit or certify their commercial biometrical systems that will work with the unified biometric system. We were fighting for this for a long time, because on the one hand it's about safety and security, because now the person knows where the originals are. On the other hand, the commercial players can offer their services proceeding from those factors, right? Yes. Great, thanks a lot for this explanation. So, now we do understand that together with the Center of Biometric Technologies, the Central Bank, Rostelecom, are thinking about the expansion of the range of services that will be rendered through the unified biometric system or different commercial biometric systems. And now it's important to popularize biometrics. At the same time, one of the most important tasks now is the question of biometric data collection. This is about the optimization of the plan that was developed back in 2018. It was improved because we got the mobile app. So now one can just submit the biometric data with a foreign passport or even without a passport. At the same time, what's important for a citizen is to just have a very simple, understandable channel in which they could submit the biometric data. And then they could also use the mobile app to actually see what's happening with this data. So we've already developed the scheme of our work for future. Now we are discussing these plans with the ministries, governmental bodies. We're discussing how to simplify and optimize this procedure when the biometric data is submitted only through the mobile app, and then they'll be confirmed in banks. I'd like to translate what you've just said. So, it's about the following. When banks were creating infrastructure for the collection of biometric data in their branches, many years have passed. So it started in 2018. Now we are in 2021. 1993. So first, the banks didn't really use this infrastructure, let's be honest, because the system wasn't operating in full swing. And now, even now, actually to force banks to do this, this is not going to work because it's very expensive. Clients, customers are accustomed to talk to mobile apps. And the idea that we worked on together with the Ministry of Digital Development and we would really like to implement it, thanks to Dmitry and some other colleagues. Our idea is a person can submit the biometrical data, a photo of themselves via a mobile app, and then they can come to a bank and they can go to any employee of the bank and confirm the data with filling in some particular data. Yes, if you do this, we'll erect a monument to you, you know. Well, you know, we've done a lot already, but there is no monument to us erected yet. Yes, this is work in progress. We are working on the design of the monument. Okay, so now we ask people to go somewhere to have their photo collected for biometrics. Yeah, it's not a very nice procedure, you know. So indeed, if we can proceed with our mobile app, everybody will be very thankful to you. Yes, I will support it because the question is about convenience, friendliness of the technology. And so there were some rules on some state biometric data. It was about mics and the quality of sound, etc. Some point of time, somebody could collect biometric data, and we've collected about 70 million of this. So I guess that when we get the ideal customer journey, we will also have very nice biometrics indicators. Okay, right. So I'm not sure we can make it a deal, but still, the mobile app is developed. It's now being tested. But we need to fix it at the regulatory level, because we need to provide everybody with an opportunity actually to confirm the data in banks. So, dear colleagues from banks, we are in the same boat with you. You will go with us. Okay, so we are ready to go with you whenever. Okay, our judge here is a customer, right? It doesn't matter whether we go together or apart, our judge is the customer. So we do need to understand that the criterion for us here is the customer convenience. But we are also clients and customers, right? I would just like to remind, and I remind to the bankers quite often, they say, oh, you know, we work in banks. But I also say, yeah, but you're also a customer of banks. And you also have biometrics, right? So what has the Ministry of Digital Development done for customers when it comes to the state key? Right, if we move back 1 year ago, when we had Phenopolis, the use of the state key has multiplied. So last year we had 1 million of users, now we have 8 million of users. And now we have 7.5 million signings, and we've enlarged the set of our services, about 50 state services with the use of a state key, more than 100 organizations that have connected to the state key. Those are from the commercial market. We've also connected the state key to the registries, so now to the unified biometric system. We also started the pilot with the personal visit. So now a customer can come to a branch, to one of the banks that is in this pilot, and they can get the key without any problems in any region of the country. And also 38 regions and the multifunctional centers of state services actually participate in this pilot already. On top of that, jointly with the central bank, we analyzed the customer journey, and we've developed in perfection to this technology. We also planned the redesign of the state key because it's not completely in accordance with the brand book of state services. What we plan further is to scale it up when it comes to the usage. So I'd like to remind you, last year we had the first mortgage transaction with the use of a state key, and now we have much more transactions with more participants from the financial market. So I do agree with Kirill, and colleagues have mentioned it already. If something is not convenient for a customer, the customer will do nothing with this. And I guess that over the past year we've moved quite significantly. But our next step is to make everything user-friendly, because now it doesn't always work like this. Sometimes we are, as customers, are not always happy with this. And we had another item on our agenda, or homework task. This is the end-to-end ID. We discussed it last time at the Finopolis. So do we need to have this end-to-end commercial IDs with the commercial IDs of the unified state registry? And so we've discussed it a lot, and I'm not sure we've come to a conclusion. So I would like to ask Kirill and Georgi to share their opinion. Sometimes it's good not to do something wrong. Sometimes it's good to wait a little bit, think about what's right, and just implement the right solution later.
Thank you very much. We had a whole set of different ideas, and we had a dream to use the banking ID and log into the Gosuslugi. Then we had an attempt to link the account IDs of EC and banking services. 27 million customers received EC ID through Sberbank online app on the one hand, and on the other hand, almost 11 million customers, and both retail customers and corporate customers agreed to enrich their profile in the mobile app. The idea was, one of the ideas was to connect EC and banking ID so seamlessly we can travel from one mobile app to another. Up to 40% of our customers fail to reach the destination because you need to recall your password, etc. And one of the most comprehensible solutions, the dual-factor confirmation in EC, and the second factor can be your banking ID. And it can be at least compatible with email confirmation, with SMS, maybe even better. Dmitry, what is your perspective on that? Very recently, the government made a decision on mandatory dual-factor authentication. Now we are in the process of connecting all Gosuslugi users to the second factor, SMS, short messages, and biometrics. As far as the initiative on the dual-factor as bank ID is concerned, we supported this stance even previously. We are ready to work on it. Let us just stick to this option. George, are you also supportive of this option? Honestly, I have something to say on this matter. I have another idea. We are talking about identification, and EC is a convenient instrument for the banks, no doubt. And I support the idea of my colleagues to use the banking ID as the second factor. Once you log in into EC, it will simplify EC users' interaction with the state-owned resource. But identifiers can be different, not just Gosuslugi. We have payment-based identification, and we also have something to offer. Since technology is available, since Russia is really advanced in fintech, we offered so many payment solutions and identification. You can pay with a card, with QR codes, with your face, with whatnot. And why don't we think about one single unified payment identifier? So I shall not think what to attach to pay for the snack. Maybe we will come up with the one single single QR code. And in front of me there are people who will be doing it. My colleagues,
Владимир, что скажешь?
Vladimir, my colleagues from the National Payment Card System and Central Bank, if we want to be serious, this is in the air. And Kirill, if we are starting and baselining on customer-centricity, in fact, at a certain point of time, a customer will not be choosing a bank, no matter how tough it might sound. The customers will not choose a bank. They will choose a service. And at a certain period of time, the service which is more profitable, more convenient for the customer. And in the nearest future, we will see this competitive fight. And the fight for the humans, not for the customers, will be baseline on who is faster, who is more convenient, who is less distracted, and to ensure fast service. And the idea that there is a linkage to an account, and humans shall choose the payment identifier. This is more than reasonable and promising. And colleagues, not just from VTB, I believe, for other market participants, it's also interesting. And as a Bank of Russia, we are ready to work on it. Kirill, what is your perspective on this idea? I'm just concerned with the word unified. Unified is also always concerns you. Everything which is unified and single, this is a monopoly that regulator is trying to combat de facto. The customers need to be given a convenient way. Agreed. And which one the customers will choose. And in different methods, there are pros and cons between the merchant and the buyer. And in certain cases, one method will work better, and in other cases, the other method will work better. From my perspective, in all cases, customers will be able to configure how money is debited. In Android, we have a cascade debiting. One transaction can cascade debiting of funds from all your cards. If we have an open API, customers will be able to configure the accounts from other banks. This is where all of us will arrive. But I'm really arrived with the words like unified, the same. We have a payment system, Mir cards, national bank payment cards. We have QR codes. We can pay with different methods. And then, depending on the scenario, we can give different options to the customers and they can choose. Previously, you were concerned with the unified biometric system. Now you are not. And maybe you need to be given more time. We don't have a choice, and now that's why we are not concerned with it. This is just another approach.
Это определенный наш способ конкуренции.
This is our way to compete.
Давайте, если мы все-таки, вот знаете, мы иногда правильно слова говорим,
Sometimes we say the right words, but life is different. This is not always the case in real life. And many of you sitting in this auditorium not as bankers, but as customers. We are talking about human-centricity, knowing that many banks sometimes abuse configuration, and you can do it only one way, not the other way. And it's an illusion that customers have a choice, but our banks are so advanced, which is good. I said it was, but on the other hand, it's not really good for the customer. Humans are not in the phase that Kirill, George, and I are talking about. I'm dependent on the AI conditions policy, and it will apply to the insurance companies as well. For sure, I want to have a choice. And the regulator, together with the market participants, this subject, we need to sincerely talk about the issues and ensure that the humans have their choice. And if we have something unified for the better of for humans, we will vote for it or in favor of business. Back then, we were protecting our ATMs with the armed guards, ensuring the customers are loyal to us. Like telecoms agreed about the roaming. Once I am saying the word unified, we shall not be afraid of the state standard which will be enforced, and the Commission will be just guiding us. I'm talking about convenience for the customer. When customers have a choice how and with what instrument to pay, and once you want to pay for the grocery, you don't have to consider it for a long time. I believe merchants, customers, our best regulator, Bank of Russia, will also support it. I don't think there is a question mark about it. Why we have such a good example with ATMs? Development of competition and development of technology results in the fact that something which was 5 or 7 years ago unimaginable becomes something which is real, and everybody is trying to compete at a different level. And I want to comment on the matter of choice. It's always a dilemma, and it will always be. We will try to tackle it. Advertisement on TV is also something which is being enforced to us, and our regulator is taking active part on it. So we need to have more transparency on selling loans, selling insurance policies. This is a journey for all of us, and as we proceed on this way, we will have a better understanding where this margin needs to be taken out, where the customer needs to have a free choice. We shall not enforce customers and push customers to a certain choice. We are coming up with a certain rules, trying to avoid customers being pushed. On the other hand, the complexity is related to the fact if humans have a lot of choice, subconsciously they choose the optional help me to make this choice. Otherwise, this advertisement will never succeed. And the problem is where to find this borderline. And I think that this is something which has been permanently discussed. And every single time we'll be taking a little bit deeper dive into it. And you are right, this is a very sensitive subject, how to find this borderline. Each one of us, let's forget that some of us is a regulator, the others are bankers. We're all customers. In mobile app, I need to make a choice where and which payment is more cost efficient for me in terms of discount or cashback, for example. I don't want to remember which bank issued this card or QR being issued by which bank. And George confirmed that whether we like it or not, but this is the path for us to follow. When humans understanding what are the available services and products, and they will determine which is faster and most efficient in terms of cost for the humans. And AI has a dual nature. Yes, Kirill, sometimes we need hints. Hints make our life easier, and it makes you more comfortable at making decisions. But on the other hand, the algorithm can be so complex that you don't realize that you are pushed to take this loan or buy this car, for example. Going back to the subject of unified or single QR, this is not about names. This is about the essence, the core. And we need to agree on the essence, and we will discuss it shortly. Time is almost up. I want to ask one question to each participant. Because home assignment works well for Phenopolis and pushes us to work more productively, not just for the regulator, but for the other participants. And the question is, what needs to be done in 2024, the year which is coming, from the regulatory perspective or infrastructure development perspective, I mean platform services. And where do you see for us the source of the breakthrough where we need to be focused? Olga, please be brief. Maybe one subject, maybe three subjects. Three subjects I will take up briefly. In customers' consent management platform, access to more data in the digital profile of customers, and open API. Open API. Yakov, open API, I think this is a large-scale subject. And now we need to move it into the experiment dimension, and we need to roll it out. George.
Пожалуйста. Удобное приложение для EBS.
App for unified biometric system.
Поддержит меня аудитория?
Will the audience support me? Convenient app for the unified biometric system. Point 2.
Внедрение Open Banking с вовлечением тех индустрий, которые
sensitive implementation of open banking in the sectors where a lot of personal data is engaged. I mean, telecom and digital retail. We need to cautiously implement it there, and we will be by your side helping you. And point 3, one single standard for QR codes. It will make our life as customers easier. So, free.
Yakov одно не использовал, платформу согласий, потому что мы тоже очень хотим.
Customer consent platform, we are craving for it. We want it a lot. Dmitry, I would like to ask you, as the Ministry of Digital Development, it's like make a wish. It sounds like make a wish. And we are in the midway already. If you still take it as a wish, so we wasted our time here to launch as fast as possible, as soon as possible. Colleagues, if we are boiling it down to the subject that we discussed, but there are other important subjects, anything which seems to be important for you. First of all, I want to mention another important project which was not discussed, goes QR, goes back, state QR codes, and it is called a digital passport. This is a presidential decree. And to use state services, Gosusluge platform as a digital passport. Jointly with the banks and insurance organizations, we are working on particular business cases. And in 2024, this digital passport will be launched. For us, this is the main priority. This is a new startup that needs to be supported and implemented. The second point is a unified biometric system, and we are targeting at shaping a right market and collection of this data. And point 3, all home assignments that I am taking up and report for you next year. This is point 3 for myself. Kirill, let me skip the part which is not related to the payments, and we have a whole array of questions related to lending, but this is beyond our discussion. I am subscribing to mobile app on unified biometric system. Convenience will always win. No one needs to be forced if it's convenient. And point 2, tourism, payment infrastructure development, outbound, inbound tourism. And this is not the subject for us to discuss. I believe this is something which is really on demand nowadays. And I believe the activity of a regulator, as someone who can give us guidelines and organize everybody, will be very, very useful. Thank you very much, colleagues. Let me reiterate. that we converted 6 tasks into 4 and added 1 plus. We can do it to make it easier for us, but all the tasks, assignments is still there. Open finance and open data implementation and customer consent management platform. Now the question is how to implement it. And 2024, as Dmitry said, 2025, this is a key for us from the perspective of tackling these large-scale tasks. Of course, we will try to have a fast-flying, unified biometric system up, so in every bank you can confirm and verify your data. We will receive lots of biometric data, so customers will be able to use financial and non-financial services, unified QR code, I cautiously call it, and digital profile of the corporate customer. From the tourism perspective, I believe transboundary services, is it something that you meant? Cross-border services. Yes, indeed. And once we are visited by non-residents, by citizens of other countries, we need to know how to identify them. And we also need to ensure convenience for their payments here. They are the same customers coming to our country, and they need to feel it at comfort. And my last question to Mr. Saif. Since Kirill mentioned this subject, how to ensure that we have a convenient infrastructure for the tourists, and we have so many tourists coming from United Arab Emirates, and our citizens travel. Mr. Saif, and we are regulators, and what can we do in this area?
I think the regulators can do quite a bit on these areas. One of our main responsibilities is to ensure that from the UAE perspective, wherever the UAE nationals travel, they always have the financial services that they need. So the central bank can connect with other jurisdictions through several ways. So today we have the SWIFT. Later on we'll have our CBDC. We can connect our fast payment. We can connect our switches together. These will ensure that seamless experience between one jurisdiction to another. And this is always, and what we see from our perspective, we see that the central bank will start to converge more and more and provide other means of connecting their client and their citizen to other jurisdictions. So this is one area is that. But there is a question that you've asked previously about what should be our focus on 2024. I think as I'm hearing the conversation here, which is quite interesting, and just for you all to know, that's what the regulator goes, and usually the banks disagree with us. But at the end, they will abide with what we are saying from that perspective. There is a lot of negotiation, there is a lot of consent that we require from our licensed financial institutions. But there is the focus of the next year should be around the AI and how we can infuse the AI in whatever we do in our day-to-day services, especially around the financial services. You mentioned several payment methods. A lot of customers are not aware what is available there and how much point or loyalties or cash back they get. This is where the AI can play a very important role in helping the customer make the right choice. And also, as we, the regulator, provide these wide platforms and infrastructure and going digital, we should ensure that our financial infrastructure are very secured from cybersecurity perspective. Today, we from the UAE, we're looking at the impact of using quantum computing and hacking. That's something that was not available, 5-10 years ago, but this has become mainstream. So the central banks will always ensure that all of their society or the jurisdiction are served well, whether within their own jurisdiction or across, through partnership, through collaboration, through interoperabilities between the system, and through common understanding and policies between us. That's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we promise together with Mr. Saif that next year we will develop the topic of the integration of system of fast payments with the CBDC. So colleagues from the United Arab Emirates are ready, we are ready, and so we just need to address a couple of more tasks, and I believe that in a year, at least between our two countries, we will be able to build a good system for payments for our citizens and businesses. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your attention. We discussed different questions. They are all very important for us. I do hope that it was interesting for you. Thank you.